deep in China's southwest, in the rugged Yunnan province, south of the lakeside capital of Kunming, underneath the cigarette manufacturing hub of Yuxi, there is a town called Eshan. Now, at first glance, it might look like a lot of small towns in China, and in a lot of ways it is. Reasonably pleasant roads lining swaths of kami blocks, cool wet market, and, of course, some sort of outrageously delicious local dish that you've probably never heard of before in your life. And in Eshan, for me, that dish was chongji, pounded chicken. It's kind of like a spicy shredded chicken, but it's also got this good hit of Sichuan pepper, a couple of unique spices, and all that flavor really absorbs and incorporates awesome into the chicken itself. It's an Yi dish, the Yi people being a minority group found in pockets around Sichuan, Guizhou, and Yunnan. Go back far enough, the indigenous people in this swath of the country were the Yi. I mean, there was a patchwork of peoples, but the Yi were the ruling class, famously ruling over a kingdom called Nanjiao that's captured the imagination of a number of Chinese kung fu epics. But of course, Nanjiao was more than a long time ago, and over the years the Yi fractured, and down in Eshan there lived one subgroup called the Nisu. Now, metalworking arrived kind of late to Eshan. It was actually together with the Han Chinese. So the food of this group, the Nisu, the Eshan Yi, they traditionally relied on pounding over knife work. But today, there's also a culinary benefit of pounding here, kind of like a Thai somdam or something similar, which is that the more that you pound, the more the flavor can really incorporate into the ingredient itself. So for something like a shredded chicken, it's a pretty cool approach. And of course, because everybody everywhere seems to love a good shredded chicken, we want to try to do two things here with this video. First, because I'm pretty sure this is the first time this is ever presented in the English language, we'll show you how this chicken would be made in Yunnan at the source. But after that, we'll leave Yunnan, go to an American supermarket in America, and show you how we would try to make the same dish using nothing but a bog standard American kitchen. So, to get started with your chongji, you're going to need a ji. This was one chicken, about 3 kilos and change, one a little older, which is prized for this specific dish. This is then added to cool water, together with a bit of scallion and ginger. Bring it up to a boil and skim and let that cook for 90 minutes, flipping it every so often. Then just remove and let it dry for at least 30 minutes, but a couple hours would also be fine too. Then take the chicken and shred it into pieces like you would a shredded chicken. And for this, because the skin is a little difficult to pound later, I personally like separating that bit and slicing it with a knife. But either way, then just set those two things aside. Now, for the seasoning here, this is going to be a lot of the Southwest China usual suspects, with the notable exception of this ingredient, xiangchunzi, or Chinese tune seeds. Now, the Chinese tune, aka the beef and onion tree, is a pretty unique ingredient that you can find throughout China. It's often seasonal to the spring, and it's got a flavor that's really difficult to describe, but herbaceous with a side of beef and onion wouldn't be the worst descriptor. But interestingly, this dish uses the seeds as a seasoning, the first time we've ever seen that move. Now, abroad, trust me that no matter how awesome your local Asian supermarket is, you are decidedly not going to be able to find this. We're primarily mentioning it here because we will need to end up finding a good substitute for our Western supermarket version later. So then, to pound, to a large mortar, we'll just toss in 15 grams of tune seeds, 2 grams of white pepper, 3 grams of Sichuan pepper, 3/4 teaspoon of salt, 3/4 teaspoon chicken bouillon powder, and 1/4 teaspoon of MSG, and then just pound those all until they're powdery. Then we'll just toss in a tablespoon half of toasted chili powder, huajiao, and give that a quick pound to mix. Then, over at the stove, we'll get a 1/4 cup of rapeseed oil up until it's good and smoking. Then pour that into our mortar and mix that really well. Then we'll toss in the chicken, give it a quick mix, then toss in some optional fresh sliced chili peppers, 1 spicy red xiaomilan millet chili, and 2 green medium chilies, together with another tablespoon of our toasted chili powder and the skin from before. Pound that all together super thoroughly for a few minutes, or until those fresh chilies are good and broken up. Then just move that over to a serving plate And then that is some Eshan-style chongji. So now let's just go to the USA and endeavor to try to make the same dish there.
So, Chris, are you planning on cooking anything when you're here?
Yeah, I'm gonna be doing this one Yunnan dish. Okay, so, apparently, my parents saved some Chinese ingredients from the last couple times I've been here. See if we can use any of this. Donggu, nah. MSG, always handy. Rupti, chicken powder, probably not. More MSG. 5 spice, nah. Sichuan pepper. I was gonna use the powder, but if we've got some anyway, I'll just grind this up, I think. Probably. Alright. Okay, so a run-of-the-mill American supermarket here. Let's pick up some chicken. So I'm thinking that I'm gonna forego the whole chicken and just maybe use some chicken thighs, chili, ginger, scallion. Now, the hardest thing to actually be able to substitute is gonna be that Chinese tune. Now, it's a pretty unique ingredient, and unfortunately I'm kind of crap at describing flavors, but it's got a really deep herbaceousness to it, almost kind of like a pungency that sort of reminds me of dill. If you were having it straight up, there would be no substitute for it. But in the context of a dish, I think that dill would also work, so I'm gonna try some dill seed. Now, besides that, we also need to get pepper. Now, for the white pepper, I'm just going to use black pepper. It's a direct sub for this kind of thing. But then we also need some dried chili. Now, I could use cayenne pepper, and I think that would work, or maybe some gochugaru. But if I'm remembering right, this specific supermarket actually has a pretty good Mexican section in the international aisle. I'm pretty sure they might have guajillo. So, yeah. And if you like, about 40 grams of chilies. This might be extra. Dill seed, huajiao. Black pepper, not white pepper. Tablespoon half. And optionally, a grating of this. Okay.
So, DLC totally work as a substitute for Chinese tune seeds. But the bigger variable here, I would say, is probably the chicken, because this chicken definitely got a lot more exercise in its life. But of course, both totally work, so definitely give it a try. It's really tasty. Oh, and also do not waste the chicken poaching liquid. It's a great base for like noodle soup, or you can turn it into a hot pot, or just drink it straight. Right, so we're back in our new place in Yunnan. So a huge thank you for everyone that's supporting us on Patreon. Couldn't do this without you guys. And of course, subscribe for more Chinese cooking videos.